This afternoon already starting off incredibly tense for this neighborhood. We're about 5 miles as the crow flies from the Kenneth Fire. So people here were already on standby, ready to leave their homes. And then things got even more frightening for these neighbors. Around 4:30 this afternoon, we're along the intersection of Arcos and Glendo. Around 4:30 in the afternoon here, neighbors say they saw a man on a bicycle with a blowtorch. He was driving up and down the blocks with this blowtorch, apparently trying to light trash cans with tree debris on fire. At one point, trying to light a old Christmas tree, a dead Christmas tree on fire. Neighbors fearing that he could start, of course, another fire, deciding they had had enough, that they were going to step in.
California residents are beyond pissed as alleged arsonists are roaming the streets, guys. Congress has some bad news for Governor Gavin Newsom and the federal funding that he's looking for. Millions of California residents are preparing to evacuate as the fires continue to spread. And the Department of Justice just released a damning report on Hunter Biden right before the president is set to leave the White House. Now, guys, I got that and a lot more in today's video, starting with House Speaker Mike Johnson.
Are you open to providing aid to California without any conditions at all?
I think we've got to have a serious conversation about that. Obviously, there's been water resource mismanagement, forest management mistakes, all sorts of problems. And it does come down to leadership, and it appears to us that state and local leaders were derelict in their duty in many respects. So that's something that has to be factored in. I think there should probably be conditions on that aid. That's my personal view. We'll see what the consensus is. I haven't had a chance to socialize that with any of the members over the weekend because we've all been very busy, but it'll be part of the discussion for sure.
Now, this is the worst news for Democrats in California because this isn't what they're used to. They've been mostly used to handing out money like it was nothing. To say that conditions have to be applied to disaster relief money that's coming from the federal government because Gavin Newsom and his team have proven to all of us that they're highly ineffective. Even with all of the money that they've been provided, and to be honest, it's kind of like throwing money out the window.
Like it's been talked about, it's going to have to be in conjunction with some reforms that California hasn't been willing to make on the way they regulate their water and things of that nature, their forest management, all these other things, the things that led to the fire. We can't just dump money into a broken system, a poorly managed system, which California absolutely is across the board, and it led to a lot of the damage you see here is because they weren't prepared. They wasted their taxpayer dollars on all kinds of crazy woke agenda items that they've had and green energy stuff, and they haven't really focused on what keeps their state safe. And so we're going to have to help there, but we're going to expect some reforms, and we're going to try to find some pay-fors, and we're going to have to make some cuts. But yeah, going into a Congress where one of our big agendas is to cut government spending, it's hard when you have things like this happen and you have to provide money for it.
Changes have to be made because they can't continue to go down this road of consumption without policies being updated. They have to prove that they're doing something with all of the money that they've been provided, because the general idea now is that leadership within California is to blame for all of this. And this is exactly what Senator Ron Johnson had to say here.
While radical climate Democrats control California, they control the White House. Do you think that when the disaster aid in the Senate comes through, that Congress will put some kind of limits on it, going, we're not wasting it on your nonsense, California. We're getting it to the people who've been hurt?
We certainly should. I certainly wouldn't vote for anything unless we see dramatic change in how they're going to be handling these things in the future. But again, these fires, the disaster, the catastrophe that these fires were, you can't prevent fires, but you can certainly prevent the catastrophe. It's about preventable. These are decisions Californian Democrats have made year after year after year. They divert water into the ocean. They don't fill up their reservoirs. Mm-hmm. They don't clean up their forests. They don't get rid of the underbrush. The real tinder, the real fuel for these fires. So again, it's their fault.
Now, that's just a harsh reality that California has to face. Their own leadership is at fault with their incompetence. But what's more is that the fires continue to rage on, with thousands upon thousands now on alert as they may have to evacuate soon.
Nearly 10 million people across Southern California are under a red flag warning and fire weather watch through Wednesday. Progress made by firefighters over the past few days could be in jeopardy.
These winds, combined with low humidities and low fuel moistures, will keep the fire threat in Los Angeles County high.
As the fires spread, over 150,000 people are under evacuation orders and 160,000 are under evacuation warnings. The Eaton fire has burned over 14,000 acres and destroyed and damaged 7,000 structures. The Palisades fire now expanding in other directions, leaving behind over 21,000 acres scorched.
I mean, first of all, this is something we never expected because of where we are. This was the safe part of the Palisades.
On Saturday, Governor Gavin Newsom greeted Mexican firefighters who joined 13,000 workers already on the ground to fight the fires. This is the ATF, who is now leading a task force investigating the cause and origin of the Palisades fire.
And even with all of this, you should know the priorities of Governor Gavin Newsom and Democrats with it. They've just authorized $50 million in state funding to quote unquote Trump-proof California. Really? Now, I know this sounds crazy, but this is what they're thinking about as houses and businesses are straight up burning to the ground. Talk about having their priorities out of alignment, right? So basically, they claim that President Donald Trump poses as an inhumane threat to their state. So basically, they're doing all that they can to try and support legal aid services for Californians. But of course, there's a catch. They're doing this to protect California's residents that are at risk of deportation. Now, you guys remember that clip that I showed you guys with the blowtorch, right? Well, as it turns out, these are the people that they want in their state. According to ICE sources, that man is Juan Manuel Sierra Leyva. He's an illegal alien from Mexico. Now, as you guys saw, he was carrying a torch head and a yellow fuel tank. Despite all of this, he wasn't charged with arson. He's been put in custody due to a probation violation. Imagine that. Never mind, he's surrounded by all these fires and he has all of the equipment to start one. They release him saying that they don't have evidence. And ICE wants to place a detainer request on him. So this means that if and when he gets released, they can have him transferred to their custody and promptly deported. So the problem is that he's in California, a sanctuary state. Not a sanctuary city, a sanctuary state. So this means that local and state law enforcement, they might not cooperate with the agency. President Joe Biden has recently announced one-time payments to victims of the California fire. Now, it's a shame that the state doesn't identify as a foreign nation at war because victims are said to receive $770 each.
We're getting them help right now, as you all know. People impacted by these fires are going to receive one-time payment of $770, one-time payment, so they can quickly purchase things like water, baby formula, and prescriptions. So far, nearly 6,000 survivors have registered to do just that, and $5.1 million has gone out.
So he's sending a few $1 million to U.S. citizens in California, but he's sending $500 million to Ukraine. Now, this is something that they probably don't want us talking about. They're also going to be pretty quiet about the DOJ report that just came out about his pardoned son, Hunter Biden.
The Department of Justice has released special counsel David Weiss's scathing report on Hunter Biden.
In it, Weiss defends his probe that found that the president's son made millions of dollars off his last name and political connections, then failed to pay his fair share of taxes.
Peter Doocy joins us live from the White House with the latest. Hey, Peter.
And a look at recent history. We remember that the heart of President Biden's pardon of his son was that he accused the special counsel David Weiss of singling Hunter Biden out. Now David Weiss is saying that the president was wrong to say that. A quote from last night's report: other presidents have pardoned family members, but in doing so, none have taken the occasion as an opportunity to malign the public servants at the Department of Justice based solely on false accusations. The biggest problem the special counsel Weiss has with Hunter is that he didn't pay $1.4 million in taxes over a 5-year stretch. Weiss says those are not inconsequential tax violations and that Mr. Biden made his money by using his last name and connections to secure lucrative business opportunities such as a board seat at a Ukrainian industrial conglomerate, Burisma Holdings Limited, and a joint venture with individuals associated with a Chinese energy conglomerate. He negotiated and executed contracts and agreements that paid him millions of dollars for limited work. The Hunter legal team is pushing back. Late last night, they told us Mr. Weiss conveniently omits his proposal to resolve this investigation in 2023 with a pair of misdemeanors and a diverted gun charge recommended by career prosecutors. Mr. Weiss also fails to explain why he reneged on his own agreement, a reversal that came at the 11th hour in court as he and his office faced blistering attacks from Republicans and his then filing unprecedented charges for someone with no aggravated gun factors who had paid his taxes in full years before the charges were filed. President Biden came here to the White House almost 4 years to the day, promising to restore faith in institutions. Now this special counsel is saying that President Biden's actions have undermined faith in institutions.
I guess President Joe Biden's pardon came at the right time, which leads me to ask you guys a very simple question. Are any of you guys convinced that the Biden family didn't partake in anything illegal during this term? Like everything that Joe Biden and the Biden family, Hunter Biden and everybody's doing everything on the up and up. There's nothing illegal going on. Is that what you guys are thinking? Now, I want to go ahead and redirect you guys to another live stream that I did where I talk about Jack Smith and his untimely resignation. I also cover how Governor Ron DeSantis goes ballistic on reporters as they, again, show their bias. Make sure you guys check that one out after this one. As always, appreciate you guys hitting the like button. Thanks so much for sharing the video. And if it makes sense to you, subscribe to the channel. And if it doesn't, that's cool too. We'll still be friends. We'll see you next time.